Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Amy. Today I thought I'd do the mid-year book freakout tag for you guys. I haven't been tagged in it, but it looked like fun, so I thought I'd do it anyways. There's 15 questions overall, so let's go ahead and get into it. Question number 1, the best book you've read so far this year, and this just so happens to also be probably one of my favorite books of all time, and that book is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I talked about this book in my favorites video in a little bit more detail, so I'll link that down below for you to check out. If you haven't read it, just go read it. Trust me, you will not regret it. Question number 2, the best sequel you've read so far this year. I have somehow managed not to read a single sequel this year, so I don't have one for you, but hopefully will soon. Question number 3, new release this year that you haven't read yet but plan to. I will leave a picture of it here, although most of you will know what it looks like. That is A Court of Rings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This may be a bit of a cheater response because I haven't read A Court of Thorns and Roses or A Court of Mist and Fury either. And to be honest, it was a new discovery for me as I found BookTube, and I had no idea that this story was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which, as you can tell, I'm a Beauty and the Beast fan. So I would love to read all 3 of those and am hoping to do so before the end of the year. Question number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Again, honestly, I don't have one, so we're just gonna skip it. Question number 5, the biggest disappointment of this year, and that would have to be A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. For those of you who don't know, this is a story about Cal, who is a special type of person who can travel between parallel Londons, and he's only one of a few that is able to do that anymore. And this is his story about how he comes across something and he's kind of set up a little bit and something is stolen from him, and through that he meets Lila and they sort of partner up and go on an adventure together. It was a good story, don't get me wrong, but it was so hyped up on BookTube, and I think my expectations were just a little bit too high, so I was disappointed with it, but I would recommend it to you to read it, and I am hoping to get to the next 2 here shortly because I'm hopeful that they will be better and we'll get to know Kel and Lila a little bit better, and they'll become a little bit more three-dimensional throughout these other stories. Question number 6, the biggest surprise for this year. I had to think about this one, but I did decide on Kristen Hanna's The Nightingale. This is the story about 2 sisters during World War II who live in France, and this is just a story that follows them throughout the war and their experiences with the war and how they handled the war and the terrible atrocities that happened to both of them. And I can't totally say why I was surprised by it. I think I was surprised maybe because I loved it so much. I knew I would like it. I love historical fiction. It's one of my favorite genres, but I don't typically go for World War II books, but seem to be doing that a lot more lately, and I just fell in love with this book. It is a big one, but a super easy read in the sense that the writing isn't anything really dense. But if you haven't read it, I would recommend it. It's a great World War II story, and I really enjoyed the sister aspect to it a lot. Question number 7, favorite new or debut author, and for me that would be a favorite new author, and that is Frederick Bachman. I just recently read A Man Called Ove and fell in love. I love his writing style. It is, I need words, and I don't have words to describe the love that I have for this book and how Frederick writes, and I cannot wait to go out and buy his other books, which I know people love, and without a doubt, Frederick Bachman, hands down. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush, and that would have to be Max Jordan from The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. Max is a character in this story. He is one of the main character, but not the main character, and he is a young man around early 20s, I believe, who recently published a book that became this huge, massive bestseller, and he doesn't like the fame, and he's awkward, and he just wants to live his life and write books, and he was so endearing and sweet, and he was such a wonderful character to experience alongside of Perdue, who is the main character of this book, and oh, I just love him. I just want to hug him and cuddle in him and squeeze him and make him feel better because he doesn't like his fame, and how adorable is that? Question number 9 is favorite new character. You've already seen this book once before and you'll see it more. That is Ove from A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. Ove is a grumpy, grouchy old man who just is unapologetically himself. He's 59 and he just doesn't understand why the world is the way that it is, and he has no problem calling people out on it. He was so sweet in his own grouchy, crotchety way, and he's just the type of man you want to hug, even though you know he doesn't want you to hug him, but you want to hug him anyways. And his character was just so dimensional and deep, and there were so many layers to him, and with each page you read, you couldn't help but love him more and more and more. Question number 10, a book that made you cry. And this book didn't just make me cry, it made me sob. Like, body-racking sobs. Like, bloodshot eyes, mascara everywhere. This book made me into a hot mess. A hot mess, okay? It wasn't pretty. And that book was A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. I haven't told you the plot of this story yet. Essentially, this is this book about a man called Ove. And Ove is a gentleman, like I mentioned, who's crotchety and grouchy, kind of that quintessential just grumpy old man who lives on your street. And the story starts when he has new neighbors move in, and they begin their introduction to him by running over his mailbox. And trust me, that doesn't make Ove very happy. And he creates a relationship with this stray cat in the neighborhood. And the plot of this is just him coming to terms with what's happening in his life. Because with this new addition of these neighbors, everything just kind of goes to hell in his world. And it also deals with him and his wife. And I cried throughout the whole thing. It wasn't just at the end. But I mean, the hot mess was at the end, but there were definite tears throughout as well. So, yes, it made me cry. A lot. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. Are you tired of me talking about this book yet? I hope not, because I'm not tired of talking about it. As much as this book made me cry, I'd be crying, and 2 paragraphs later, I would literally be laughing out loud. My husband was irritated with me by the number of times that I was interrupting his show by laughing out loud. It's just such a heartwarming story. It makes you happy, and Ove is so wonderful, and the other characters are so wonderful, and you just love them. You can't help but love them. And this book made me cry, but they were like sad happy tears and happy sad tears, and it just made me feel all the feels, and happy was most definitely one of them. So I guess the point is, if you haven't read this book yet, read it. You have to go read it. It's wonderful. I think everyone would find something to love from this book, and just buy it. Read it, buy it, and read it. Okay, ready, go. Well, maybe finish watching the video first and then go buy it, okay? Okay. Question number 12, your favorite book to film adaptation. And again, sorry guys, this seems to be a trend. I haven't watched any this year. I don't watch a lot of shows or TV or movies, but that being said, if there is a book to film adaptation that I'm interested in, of course I watch the film, but unfortunately there just hasn't been any this year. Question number 13 is my favorite video that I've done so far this year. Granted, there's not very many of them because this is like my 4th or 5th video, but I would probably say my favorite books video, where I just talked about the books that I love more than anything. And what could be better than talking about your favorite books? Question number 14, most beautiful book that you have bought this year. I'm gonna cheat a little bit and have 2. One's an antique book and one is a new book. The antique book is this darling little copy that's so well loved of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I love this story. It's sweet, and I mean, who doesn't love A Christmas Carol? Actually, probably lots of people do. But I love it. I think it's wonderful. But it's just this darling little copy. It has kind of like a fabric covering, and it's very well loved, and it's somewhat falling apart, but it smells good. Does anyone love the smell of old books like new books too? I mean, I love the way all books smell, but I think old books smell good too. So I just think this is darling and beautiful, and I love it. And obviously you probably can't find it super easy because I found it at a used bookstore in Lincoln City, Oregon. But yeah, I just think I love it. It makes my heart happy. It gets to sit out all the time because even though it's a Christmas book, you can't really tell. The second one that I have for you is The Nest by Cynthia D'Aprix Sweeney. I just think this book is gorgeous. The embossing on it in this like rose gold coppery color. I love this robin eggs blue. I just think it's super pretty. I like that this copy is also a French flap. I like those types of books, and it's just a pretty book. I mean, it's pretty. I like it. And the last question is question number 15, and that is books you would like to read before the end of the year. Now, this list in actuality is really, really long, but I just have a few for you here, and by a few, I mean like 5 or 6, so more than a few. But the first of those I just showed you, and that is The Nest by Cynthia D'Aprix Sweeney. This is a family drama about a family, obviously, who is going to be receiving a trust fund called The Nest very soon, and they all have plans for what they want to do with this money, but a brother gets a DUI, and that may mess up the ability for them to get that money, and really looking forward to this one and hope to get to it soon. The next one is The Rebel Queen by Michelle Moran. This is a historical fiction story about a queen in India who is fighting the British to keep them out of her area, and she raises 2 armies, a male army and a female army. How cool is that? And this is based on true events, so I am like so excited to read this. I love historical fiction that is very much steeped in what actually happened, but they make it into a story as well, and I love books like this. Like I read Philippa Gregory all the time, so I have a feeling that I'm gonna like this one a lot. And the more I've thought about this one, Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I really hadn't planned on picking this up anytime soon, but I keep thinking about it, so that may be a sign I need to read it. And Vicious, which this might be a little bit of a cheater. I started reading this one last night. I'm only like 40 pages into it, by V.E. Schwab, and that is the story of Victor and Eli, who were 2 friends who were studying EOs, or extraordinaries, people who seem to have these like borderline superhero powers, and it's about their relationship and how they kind of become enemies. And let me tell you, I'm 40 pages in and I am totally hooked already. And then the last one is Conjured by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a Scholastic book that I bought at a book fair, and let me actually, you know what I'm going to do to describe this book to you? I'm just going to read the first 3 things on the back of this book. There are 3 things that Eve knows. 1, she can't remember who she is, but she has someone else's face and name. 2, she is the only survivor of a notorious serial killer who will never stop hunting her. 3, there is something horrifying buried in her memories that her protectors want to access, and there is nothing they won't do to get her to remember. This book just sounded so interesting. I'm normally not drawn to thrillers or mysteries, but maybe this will be the book that gets me into it. It just sounds fascinating, and especially because I think it's supposed to be like a YA type book, so definitely looking forward to that one. Well, that concludes my mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to tag Mary Claire from Mary Claire Reads. She's a new booktuber like me. I actually think we published our booktube newbie tag on the exact same day. So I'm gonna link her channel down below. Please go check her out. And I also tag all of you. If you've done it, let me know in the comments down below. I wanna watch them. And thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please like it. And if you loved it, please subscribe. We will see you next time. Happy reading.